Today on Locked On Phoenix Suns, 4 wins in 5 games, the best W of the season. Lots to get to. What's working? How can it continue? And just how far could it take this Suns team next?
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Phoenix Suns. I'm Brendon Kleen, a staff writer at Awful Announcing and a credentialed Suns media member. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen here on a game day Monday. Don't forget, Locked On Suns is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, so click that follow or subscribe button. Do what thousands of other Suns fans have already done. Become an everydayer and get locked on to the Phoenix Suns right here each and every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Joining me as always from the Wild West Valley, my fellow Suns credentialed media member. How are we feeling on this game day Monday? Ben Garcia.
So good because the Suns are flying high and my Florida Gators on the way to the Sweet 16 couldn't have been better, Brendon. Just couldn't have been better.
Got a little tight there at the end, but they did.
I was ready to tweet that like everything is my fault. I was like, the reason why the Suns suck is my fault. The reason why the Gators suck is my fault. So I was about ready just to denounce the Suns, but it's all right. They got it figured out. To be the champs, you got to beat the champs. But the Suns, flying high, man.
Flying high for sure. Beat the Cavs in very surprising fashion without Nick Richards and obviously Beal and Grayson Allen still on the sideline. No Mason Plumlee. It's book KD and the young guys, and somehow it is working. 123-112, and honestly, the game was less close than that for a big portion of it. The Cavs made a little bit of a push late, and suddenly the Suns are not only in that 10 seed, they are also 1.5 games back from the 9 seed, and finally starting to look, I think, at least closer to the team that we expected them to be, both with the winning and how they are getting the job done. So, Ben, I think you and I were both a little hesitant to fully call this anything when it was just Toronto and Chicago, and there's a Lakers egg that they laid just in the middle of all of it. And maybe we still are hesitant to fully go, but this win is inarguable. You don't beat one of the best teams on a 60-plus win pace and have it mean nothing. So what did this win tell you? How are you feeling about this week plus now of really solid Suns basketball?
It shows me that someone's the problem. I don't know who it is. There's a couple of guys that have been in and out of the lineup since the Suns came back, but there's like a few points that you just continue to point to, and it's that energy is infectious. And Cody Martin, I don't think has made 6 shots all year for the Suns, or I guess I should say in the past 5 games that he's played. Oso, I mean, he's not putting it up in bunches. Ryan Dunn has at times done that, but the Suns have found a formula that works, which is something you and I have been talking about all year. It's get the ball to your best 2 players and have everyone else get the hell out of the way, but not just get the hell out of the way, but stop screwing things up for everyone else. And only 13 turnovers the other night against the Cavaliers, which I think is a number that you have to point out because the Cavs are better than average defensive team. You got a bunch of young guys on that team that are active. DeAndre Hunter's there, Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland. Like, not to say that all 3 of those guys are awesome, but they're active young players getting to the ball. So I don't know what it is, pinpointing what exactly thing is perfect. I think part of it as well is Kevin Durant was just awesome on Friday. Yeah. But it was just nice to see. It was nice to see them thoroughly beat up on the Cavs. And then late in that game, it got a little dicey, but not really, because Booker made a big shot to end the game. Well, close to the end of the game, and then swung a ball over to KD that really put the dagger in it. And that's what you need to see, being carried by those 2 stars.
Yeah, with Cleveland in particular, the Suns have quietly matched up with them really well for a while, even as Cleveland has gotten a lot better since the Mitchell trade, and the Suns have maybe been a little bit more mediocre overall, just because they don't have any players who can consistently check Book, and then once they got KD or even Chris Paul at one point, like, their perimeter defense is a weak point for their team, and the Suns don't rely on getting into the paint, so those 2 bigs, they can kind of, as you saw them relentlessly attack Jarrett Allen, the Suns can just manipulate what the Cavs are in a way that makes it work. That was one of their best wins last season around this time, too, if people remember. I think it was on April 3rd of last season. The Suns obliterated Cleveland at home. So it's been a trend. But overall, I think you're right. It's not one of the things you said. It's all of the things you said. All of those things are why the Suns have been better lately. And you just kind of look. So in the past 2 weeks, cleaningtheglass.com, which is a good stats site that just kind of gives you a snapshot of what teams are doing, where they're ranking in a lot of different categories. And it gives you this running tally every day, anytime you check it, where it has overall offensive rating, defensive rating, things like that. And then it has last 2 weeks. So just recently, the Suns are 5-3 in their last 2 weeks. Obviously, they're 4-1 in the last 8 days. And then more specifically, so that's 7th in net rating over that stretch. Very, very good. But it's a lot closer in terms of the offensive-defensive mix that I think we've been expecting, right? 5th in offense, 17th in defense. You would like both of those to be a little better. You'd like them to be more in the 1-2-3 range on offense, ideally, and probably more into the 10 to 15 range on defense. But it's a lot better than like 10th in offense and 28th in defense or whatever, which is how it had been. And then you add in the fact that they are shooting threes at an elite level, 41% in the month of March. I agree with you. The turnovers being down during this 5-game stretch we're talking about has been, of course, enormous. But I think that the main thing, and it kind of speaks to what you were saying about Durant, Ben, is like, I think that there is an element when you look at Durant having a night like that. Part of it is Book just deferring and going into playmaker mode because he didn't have his shot, obviously. But even that can go either way. Book's had a little bit of a down season, but of course he could have 40 in the next game. No one would be surprised. But it's an environment where those nights are easier to happen because they're the only two guys on the court where the main way they impact the game is through their scoring. There's no more Bradley Beal. There's no more Grayson Allen. Heck, there's no more Yusuf Nurkic. A lot of the time, there's at least less Tyus Jones. And I guess his main way of impacting the game is not necessarily scoring, but this year it sort of has been. It's just clearing the I don't know, like the recipe of the team out a little bit, where it's like, we're making chicken and potatoes. We're not making a feast anymore. We're not making this pasta dish where everything has to add up in a little bit of this and a little bit of that. It's like, we're getting to basics. These guys do that. You guys score and we'll win games.
It's clarity in the offense. Like we have over the past couple of months being like, what is this offense? There is nothing in it that makes any sense. Bradley Beal, it's like hero ball. Nothing really has changed from last year. Whereas, a lot of people like to blame Beal, but it's not just Beal either. Like it's Beal, it's Allen at times who's been out. Like it's Nurkic, I think is a good point because the ball would stick in his hands. Tyus Jones, a lot of those guys aren't playing. So the clarity is Booker and Durant have to be awesome or they're going to lose, which I don't think is a really bad offensive identity. It's probably not the best. It's not that.
But the thing is, that was true before too, right? It was just then you had all this extra stuff on top of it that made it make even less sense. Like they've always lived and died by those guys.
And that's what they need to do. And I think that's what we're all kind of learning now is building around those guys more effectively than maybe going out and getting Beal. We probably were wrong there, or not even probably. We are at this point. And so with Durant and KD, it's not only that those two guys are the guys that they're like leaning on. They're the only two players on the court that can get a bucket. Like on their, not even just on their own. Cody Martin's not a great shooter. Oso Ighodara's not a great shooter. Ryan Dunn's not a great shooter. The guys that they're playing with, Colin Gillespie, as much as we love to joke about him being the next Steve Nash, he hasn't shot the ball super effectively either over the last couple of games. So it's really just those two and a lot of nothing else. So as long as other guys aren't screwing it up and guys like Ryan Dunn are getting their casual 13 to 14 points and Oso's getting another 8 around the rim and Tyus figures out a way to hit a couple of threes, and by a couple, I mean just 2, then that's the offensive recipe for this team. And I don't know, like we'll get into this later, but I don't know how you change anything. I don't know, especially with the success that you've had. I don't know what you go into. Seriously, man.
Yeah. It's a fascinating point in the season. Let's get to these games coming up this week. And I think the question to ask is sort of, is there anything fluky? Is there anything that might be scraping by that needs to kind of even get to another level? We are only talking about 4 and 5. There was 60-something, 70 before that told us a very different story. So what has to continue? What has to maybe get even better to not only handle the next 2 games against top Eastern teams, but carry the Suns through the finish line next? First, today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Do you ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? We all do, but that's normal. Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it can be easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in for you. It is your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a one-stop shop budgeting app. It is a complete financial command center. It does everything for you. Track your accounts, investments, spending, all in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start looking to build wealth. Look forward. All-in-one convenience is the main thing that Monarch Money brings to the table, because, of course, there's a million places from, 6 different apps here and there to a notepad on your kitchen counter to a conversation with your partner or your mom or your dad. That could be how you do this. But Monarch Money says, hey, do it all here, keep track of everything in one place, and watch the results come in. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's MONARCHMONE, monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. All right, Ben, let's keep the show rolling here. 4 out of 5 wins. Nice little stretch here. 34 and 37, 1.5 back on the Kings. And unfortunately, the gauntlet of this schedule, which we knew was coming, will not let up. So Suns Bucks on Monday night when people are going to be listening to this, and then Suns Celtics on Wednesday night, 2 very, very difficult tests. I know you have a question about the schedule, but let me ask you one first. What's the thing you're going to have your eye on most? Last week, heading into the Cavs, Bucks, Celtics thing, I pointed out the big men. I thought that would be what decided this, and then Nick Richards is a late scratch, and my entire prediction looked stupid because they handled business with one rookie big somehow beating the best front court or one of them in the whole NBA. So I'm probably wrong on that, but now that we've seen this team have this winning formula, what's the elements of that formula that you're going to keep looking at here as they keep trying to, tear off wins?
More specifically, if I'm picking at guys, the rookies, absolutely. What they're doing, they need to be able to continue, which is not fair to them, especially Oso, to ask of those guys to be consistent role players for this team, but they have to be. If the Suns want to be competitive, those 2 guys have to be competent role players. Ryan Dunn has to bring it more so on the defensive side than he does on the offensive side, because that's what his specialty is, and Oso's got to be really good around the rim. But if I'm looking at someone in particular, I think Colin Gillespie's got to be the guy. That's someone that, Bud is just looking to rip him out of the lineup. And I don't necessarily think that it's the worst thing for Bud to do, just to keep a keen eye on him, because he's been in the league for years now, and he is a smaller player, but he is playing a consistent everyday role, an important one in this lineup. He's not turning over the basketball, but he's not necessarily shooting the ball super well either. So I need to see Colin Gillespie do what Tyus Jones couldn't do, which is not turn over the ball and not get in the way offensively, and be a pest defensively, and just be Josh Okogie. If he could be in there and be Josh Okogie and shoot the ball a little bit better than him, that's what I need to see from him, more consistently, because when Beal comes back, there's going to be a conversation to be had, and you don't want to give anyone any reasoning to believe that needs to be switched.
Yeah, let's have that conversation to round things out. But I think Gillespie is a great, he's a 2-way player who is starting for you. Is, if you're looking at a weak link, that's the one most people would circle. What's funny, and I'm definitely not picking on you. It's just, we do this, we have a tool where we can use AI for some of the podcast stuff we do, just to suggest titles and captions and things and give us ideas for that stuff. And it kind of like gets a lot of things wrong, which is why we don't use it for more than that. If AI was to listen to how many seasons you say Colin Gillespie has been in the NBA, I think it would say he's been in the league for 15 years and is a seasoned vet getting ready for retirement. This is his third NBA season. He's played 46 NBA games.
It doesn't matter.
Plenty of upside left.
Wait a second.
He's 25.
Stop that. I said that to you pre-show. I said he's played 3 or 4 seasons. So whatever. I didn't know he played exactly 3, but I know he's been in the league for a couple of years. I knew he played at Villanova.
I'm just saying you pick on him.
I know
I'm
he
not
won a
trying to say
championship
about
with
you getting it wrong. I'm saying the guy has all this opportunity to get better. I got to ride for my guy.
See.
You're right on Oso. I'm right on Gillespie, and I'm going to stand on it. That's all.
I just have seen what he has done, which isn't exactly anything insane. He has not turned over the ball, which is again something we asked Tyus Jones not to do. He's not shooting it super effectively, but he's active. And when you add him into the lineup, other guys like that youthfulness where you are right. That is so funny that our AI tool probably would say that, but I want to see him more in the lineup than I want to see Bradley Beal. And that's something I never thought I would say. I never thought I'd say that.
And at the end of the day, like, he is active. He does all those things. But, I mean, you mentioned Okogie, and maybe hustle and energy-wise, like, the value that they provide is very similar. But the obvious difference is Colin Gillespie's 6'1". And at some point, as he gets more on teams' radar, you're going to naturally worry, like, our team's going to try to really attack him? Are they going to say, hey, Dame comes set a screen for Giannis, Gillespie's guarding Dame? I mean, I don't know if that's always how it would be. And now Giannis has a one-on-one against Gillespie, or whatever it might look like. Maybe it's just having his man run off-ball screens, and Gillespie has to navigate that, or have him be in these help positions. Like, part of what we're seeing, and I think it's right on with what you were going at, is like all of these guys are also new to everybody that they're going up against. Do you think the Cavs expected Oso to play a high level 44 minutes? No. So that's part of that element of surprise can take you a long way. So anyway, minus 3-point shooting. Because the other thing about the rotation that the Suns have been playing is they were talking about it a lot on the broadcast on Friday night, and I have to admit, like, I didn't fully have it into perspective the way that they were putting it. The Suns on the season are the 4th best 3-point shooting team if you sort out garbage time, when they're either up a bunch or down a bunch. And in the month of March, I believe they're shooting over 41% from 3. And that's despite the fact that, we can talk about all the ways that benching all those players, or having a lot of those players we mentioned being out, is helping them to get more energy guys and non-scorers out there. But somehow they've been doing this with Grayson Allen, Bradley Beal, those guys missing time, even Bol being on the bench. So you have, Cody Martin getting a lot of minutes, Ryan Dunn getting a lot of minutes, Oso, who doesn't even shoot, and somehow the Suns are scorching hot from 3. And the main guys that are the culprits of that, or I guess culprit makes it sound bad, the drivers of that are Royce O'Neal and Tyus Jones. And them and Gillespie, can they keep shooting the lights out like this? And if not, what happens? That's going to be a big one for me, because it's been driving a lot of what they're doing as a team to get up a ton of threes and make a ton of threes, like Bud has been preaching all season. And now it's finally working, but not with the guys you would have guessed. And that's just a weird thing, and I hope it continues. But if all of a sudden they went cold for 2 weeks, I don't think anybody would be super surprised, and that would make the team look a lot different again. So that's what I'm looking at.
What would get you to buy back? Like what? Not like, yeah, buy back. What am I saying? Buy back. Like, do they have to win both of these games, or is it just? Or even if they win both, are you like, this is a different team?
Boston, yes. If they beat Boston, that will make me feel different, because Boston has had their number. Boston is very similar to the OKCs and the Houstons and the Memphises, and the best version of that even. Memphis is almost like an insult to the Celtics, right? But like, that one would make me feel differently, because you're beating a type of team that has just really, really killed you. But I think the Monday game is honestly more interesting to me, because I'll probably be expecting them to lose to the Celtics no matter what, and be pleasantly surprised if they don't. This is the expectations for this game against the Bucks are going to be really, really high, because they're worse than the Cavs. You just beat the Cavs, and you should be able to be competitive with Milwaukee. You're at home. You're riding high. You found this recipe that works. I don't know. I'm not going to say I predict them to win, but there's there's going to be a lot of expectation that they get pretty close to winning, if not beat this team.
I really worry about Giannis going up against Nick Richards. I mean, if Mason Plumlee is going to be in that rotation and Oso Ighodaro, I worry about that, man. I think there's a chance that he could just punish them down low. I think he just had 30 and 15 the other night. Yeah, against the Kings, who didn't have Sabonis. So it just worries me. That part worries me.
But the thing you worry about with Giannis is the fouls. Even if guys can maybe handle him at times, if he gets him into foul trouble. And so, honestly, I don't even care if Nick Richards does a good job. You need him or Mason Plumlee to be back for this game just for bodies. It's the same problem we had with the finals where Saric was out and it was just Ayton couldn't even play him physically because he was worried about fouling him. So that's a big concern for sure.
If they win both games, I'll be ready to get hurt again, but they got to win both. Even if they just win one, even if they just win one, man, like I'll get excited about it. And my expectations are obviously lower than a championship from months ago, but it kind of feels like they're moneyballing it right now. Where like they're throwing guys out there that are overperforming and their stars are being awesome. And I just don't know how sustainable that is. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. They got to win both.
Against Chicago to beat the Bulls by 6. You needed 41 from Book. I mean, you didn't need it. They played around at the end,
which is fair. It's not like those are fluky. Like Booker and KD dropping 40 points is not fluky. They do that. I just ask them to do that every night. It's going to be a little hard to do.
They average 27 for a reason. So 27 is what you should expect, not 40. So you're not wrong. But yeah, I mean, but look, like, okay, so maybe even if they don't beat Boston or whatever, but like it's right back to Minnesota, Houston, Milwaukee, Boston again. So they have opportunities to continue proving us right or make us sad all over again. This stretch is just so brutal. So we will see. But more to talk about here because I think the standings and the always ever looming Bradley Beal question will also face the Suns this week. We'll break them down next. Closing out the show, don't forget to sign up for the Locked On Suns Daily newsletter if you have not already at LockedOnDaily.com. Just type that email address in, get news, Suns news and NBA news, great writing, original writing that you can only find in that newsletter, as well as fantasy advice and updates on the podcast, all in one place for free, and it supports us big time. Okay. So where do you want to start, Beal or the standings? Because Bradley Beal is due to be reevaluated, quote unquote, on Monday with this hamstring.
I hope the doctor that has to reevaluate him goes home sick, so they have to push it back another day. Like he gets, I don't know, the sniffles or something.
Yeah, I think that's where we have to start. So you and I have gone back and forth a little bit already during these recap episodes and everything during this stretch where I've been, I think, trying to be like the reasonable voice here to just say like they can't just give him DNPs. They can't pull the PJ Tucker treatment on him or the Ben Simmons treatment and just say, goodbye, or even what they did to Nurk. But what I think is a reasonable compromise between where you might be, Ben, and where I am, and I'll let you tell me where you are instead of speaking for you, but I'll just say I think docking his minutes and making him actually feel like a rotation player, which is what he's played like this year, has to be the starting point. It can't be that he comes back after all this success and he just is gifted 35 minutes and a starting spot right away. Like that I feel is a bridge too far. But there has to be somewhere between that and goodbye, go home, we'll see you in June.
The reason why I've said we'll see you in June, and I understand, man, it's not reasonable. It doesn't make a ton of sense. Like I'm willing to concede that, but this whole Suns season, like you kind of just have to throw reason out the window. I worry if you say you can come back and you can be a rotational piece and you can be a bench player, but I think starting behind Tyus Jones or Ryan Dunn is one thing. Starting behind Colin Gillespie, I think has the potential of a nuclear worst case scenario argument with coaches or locker room friction. Like I worry about that, man. But with all that being said, I don't care. I would either send him home, but I think that that's far-fetched. He should just be a rotational piece and get 15, 20 minutes a night. He hasn't earned it, man.
He should basically be playing the role that Tyus has been playing during this stretch, right? In an ideal world, I think that's what you would do is you get your 20 minutes, you're basically out there to shoot, to, keep the ball moving, do, contribute in the ways that you do on the defensive end, guard your guy, rotate, be a veteran, whatever, but he should basically be doing what Tyus is doing, in my opinion. And I mean, I agree that's an insult. But at the same time, how much of an insult is it compared to we're shipping your you-know-what to freaking Detroit as soon as we can to get Jimmy Butler and the other rookie is starting ahead of you? I mean, how much different is it than the disrespect that they've already been giving him since November? I mean, the whole season's been disrespected. He spoke to that in that ESPN piece. He was like, yeah, it feels like crap to be treated like just some guy when I feel pride about who I am. Of course, you and I don't agree with that, but
it's just a giant eye roll, man. I know you're not saying it. It's just a giant eye roll.
That's my point is they've already disrespected him, quote unquote. So how much worse could it be if it's Colin Gillespie? So I think you and I are kind of on the same page. They have to just disrespect him at this point. If that's what it's called, then go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think anyone else sees it as disrespect. I think he's the only one that sees it as disrespect because he hasn't looked in the mirror and been like, whether it's his fault because he doesn't fit here, but what they need Bradley Beal to do, which I don't think he will do coming off the bench, like backing up Colin Gillespie in a 15 to 20 minute role. My old stance was give him 30 minutes a night, but maybe don't run him out there with this lineup. What it's going to be now is legitimately like the seventh or eighth guy off the bench. And he is going to have to be score, play gritty defense, dive on the floor, maybe fake an injury. I know he loves to do that. Go do all the gritty stuff. His role is no longer go get buckets. It's just not. It's go get buckets and be gritty and do all the little things, the glue guy stuff, as Bill Simmons was saying the other day. And I don't think he's going to want to do that because you have to have a certain attitude to do that. And I don't think he's going to have that after this season, man.
Agreed, because, well, I mean, I don't know about if he will or won't, but I agree that that's what he's going to have to face down, because the other thing about this stretch that maybe we didn't say about the recipe that's working is because of how much they're playing Book and KD and the lack of scoring consistently outside of those two guys, one of the two of them's on the court at all times. So there's not like these pockets of the rotation where it's like, okay, slot Brad in there. And you can't run the risk of saying, okay, well, great. Now that Brad's back, we can cut their minutes and let him cook, because he hasn't done that all season. All the metrics show. We don't even need to go through them. Everybody's seen them by now because it's been the same all year. When he's on the court, they tank. They're awful. So you can't exactly say anything. It's just like a cherry. If he does anything for you at this point, it's a cherry on top, and Bud should be treating it that way. Okay, standings.
I got a question to ask you about these standings.
Okay, I'll just lay it out, and then you ask me a question. So again, the Suns are a game and a half back from the Kings, who are 500. The Suns have played one more game than Sacramento, so take that for what you will. And then So the head-to-head, we'll see. They play again on the last final day of the season, but the other tiebreaker, if that head-to-head is tied, which I believe it still could be if they beat them on that final day, then it goes to division, and the Suns have that in a wash. So I think, it's very much in play that they could get all the way to 9. I don't think they can get much higher than that, and we could at least see the Suns host a play-in game when, 2 weeks ago, we thought that they weren't even going to get in. That's where we're at.
But to be fair, you thought they were going to get in. Now, you didn't think it was going to be because they were going to be great. You thought it was going to be because
the Kyrie injury. I did not. It was just that, to be fair.
Well, well, then I was trying to talk you off the ledge last week. I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know if they're going to get into the play-in. Do you think they get to the 9 spot? Because now obviously they're going to get in outside of AD comes back. And even then, I don't know if the hospital Mavs are going to be able to do anything, even with Anthony Davis. But do you think they get to the 9
in their last 10, Dallas is, and the Suns are 6-4. Even the Kings are 3-7. So yeah, it's a long shot.
Are you gonna take the Suns to get the 9 spot?
I'm not willing to go there. But the other interesting aspect of it is the Kings have the 7th hardest schedule. So they're going through it too. They have
No
Cavs,
Sabonis
Celtics, Thunder, no Sabonis. Like they're, I just said they're 3-7 in their last 10. So they're sliding for sure. But that's still another game and a half to make up. And we're down to the point where there's only 11 games. So, I'm not going to predict it, but it's definitely in play. What do you think?
I'll stick. Sabonis got hurt like 5 days ago. She's probably got another 5 days. Yeah, I think the Suns are going to stay at 10. I think they'll stay at 10. I don't think the Mavs are any worry anymore. Like, they're just so bad, and I feel so bad for them. That is really the season from hell. From the finals to this, I think that the Suns stick it at the 10 seed, and in 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, we're talking about a game lighting the beam from Sacramento.
Real question is, Portland's not going to catch up anymore. That ship has sailed, but
they've cooled off.
I mean, not officially. No, they have not cooled off. They're winning 4. They've won 4 straight, but I just think even with 4 straight, they're still 2 back. So I don't see it happening. But are they gonna finish hot enough to prevent the Suns from hiring Chauncey Billups? That's really the question. That's the bottom of the West question that we all have to start wondering. It is, does Chauncey Billups save his job and prevent the Suns from getting the guy that I think we all know they'll look at this summer?
I was the one last week where I was like, the Blazers, I was worried the Blazers could catch the Suns, but now that the Suns are playing better, and if they win one of these 2 games, you really don't think so, but I think, it's the chicken and the egg question, man. Are they going to fire Bud? Like, we don't know. It doesn't really matter what happens with Billups.
Tongue in cheek on that one. I don't know. Let's just ask that question really quickly with 30 seconds left. Do you think Bud is going to save his job? I mean, this is what you and I were texting about before of like, how far do we go with this? Because I know people always want to make every game a referendum on everything, but all of it, what they do with KD, which role players, are off limits, or which guys they look to move. This week didn't decide any of that. It's all the rest of the season, and especially what happens in the postseason. Can they miraculously get out of the play-in? Can they look anything close to competitive if they do make the first round? Like, that's what's going to determine. Now that they're in the play-in, it's how well they perform. I mean, I have no idea. KD, I have no idea.
I agree. I would just say, like, outside of that, like, if you're the Thunder, they're going to beat the Suns. But it is kind of frustrating to have to play Devin Booker and Kevin Durant in the first round. Like, it's not like they'd much rather play the Kings.
Well, the Kings are the easy target of those teams. But, like, before that, it was like, I mean, Kyrie and AD, that wouldn't have been a lot of fun. I mean,
sucked.
Minnesota's there. The Clippers are there. So, yeah, the Kings are definitely the one that I think OKC is hoping gets through. But of the other ones, I would say that the Suns are probably next, if we're being honest. I think they'd rather play the Suns than the Clippers or the Wolves. So,
I don't think so. I think they'd rather play the Clippers, not the Wolves. Wolves defensively are just too much, man.
Clippers are 8-2 in their last 10, won 5 straight.
Yeah, but
scoring like 30 a night all of a sudden.
Well, yeah, and then he'll miss another month. Yeah, I think that's a big question mark. But
yeah, it's going to be interesting, and the Thunder are going to just probably kill whoever they play. But it's
no, heck no. You know what? We're gonna beat the tar out of them, Brendon. We're gonna show them what's good. I wonder if we could have like
any plans in mid-May then, because if the Suns, if their season's going on that long, hopefully you don't have any big holiday plans, whatever. Memorial Day, you got any trips planned? Cancel them.
I don't need.
We're going to Denver.
All right, let's go. All right, we're going to Denver. I've already been to Oklahoma, so we could go there too if you wanted to.
Okay.
Whole lot of nothing going on in Oklahoma.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we'll be back with you from PHX Arena on Monday night after Suns Bucks, where we will see how many of our crazy predictions and thoughts actually came true. Enjoy the Monday, enjoy the game, keep it right here, and we'll talk to you then.